Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I'm still alive, yay! But that's only day one, so we'll see what happens from here on out. And, I'm really pretty tired right now because I waited until after the hearing was over and after I had watched it all because I kind of watched it double speed, and I took some time out this afternoon to take a nap because I was really, really tired from it. So I got done a little bit later than they did. But anyway, so it's kind of late right now, and I'm going to do this hopefully without any major edits necessary. Sorry about that, but it just takes a long time to do the editing. And I'm tired and I really want to get to bed tonight. So anyway, I wanted to point out this is a comment off of my last video that I did on the impeachment rule day. And Douglas Tong comes up with some good stuff. This was a great post. There should be a disclaimer read at the beginning of each day of the sham trial. Warning! The following is a presentation of the U.S. Congress. The truth has been changed to suit the Democrats. The audience is advised to take things with a grain of salt. Watching every minute of the proceedings may reduce your IQ by several points. If you become ill while watching the sham trial, we recommend you watch the opening monologue by Ricky Gervais at this year's Golden Globe Awards for immediate relief. Thank you. Now sit back and enjoy the sham. That was a great post. Thanks, Douglas. That really made my day. And I'll tell you what, guys, I really appreciate your comments because when things are just kind of, getting irritating watching the trial, then I can come here and you guys come up with the best stuff. And so I appreciate that. And I also have some of you on Twitter that I really want to say thanks to, but I'll do that in just a minute when I get there. All right, so got some documents for you. You know how that works. And the first one is the Senate Resolution 483. Now, this is the version that is kind of marked up. So it's not actually the final version, but they did incorporate these. So I'll show you the real version in a minute. Something got cut off here, but I'll show you in the other one. You can see what it says. But this is the resolution that is governing what we're watching right now. And I don't remember where I got this from. I think it was a couple of things that I a couple links that I took from maybe Politico or something. But notice this number up here. It's like 666. Just thought that was kind of weird, a little creepy. Well, this one comes from congress.gov, so we don't have any of that kind of stuff in it. And if you go here, you can see the text. I really like how the site works because you can always check it out. There were 25 actions taken. There were 11 amendments, folks. And if you want to see all the amendments, you can just click on that and it'll show you all the wonderful little amendments that they did. That's what we spent all day on Tuesday doing, is going through these amendments. It was not fun. And I would assume that the actions that were taken were on the votes, the roll call votes and stuff, I guess. Yeah. So they had all of this, I guess. All actions. Yeah, so this includes all the amendments and everything, and then the votes on the amendments. And well, let's go back to the text, okay? Because that's what's really important at this point. And this is governing what's happening and how it's going to work. And so it was agreed to. They did vote for it. So it is definite. This is how things are running. To provide for related procedures concerning the articles of impeachment against Donald John Trump, President of the United States. And then they go through and say, the House of Representatives shall file its record with the Secretary of the Senate. And their House resolution was part of that. That's part of the procedures. Materials in this record will be admitted. I thought this was interesting. Materials in this record will be admitted into evidence subject to any hearsay, evidentiary, or other objections that the president may make after opening presentations are concluded. The only problem is the opening presentations, it takes them up to 3 days to do their opening presentation. This is what I have a little problem with right now, because for 3 days, all we're going to hear is the Democrat side. And that bothers me because I know the attention span of people. And this is one of the reasons why they did all those amendments yesterday. If you were paying attention, well, if you watched it, and I know a lot of you didn't, but if you watched it, what they were doing is they would propose the amendment and then they would tell all the reasons why they thought this person should be, because most of the amendments were for getting some person to be a witness and or why they needed certain documents. And so they go through all the reasons why they needed that person in there or why they needed those documents. And that was just kind of crazy that that's what they were doing. But I could see how they were using it to manipulate people that were watching. Because, okay, if you remember, back when in the House, when they did the first public hearing, oh my goodness, everybody in the world tuned into it and everybody watched. And then by the time they got to the second and the third and the fourth, nobody was watching anymore. Because this is how the media plays on people's minds. This is how people absorb things. I wanted to point out that, on this, the president does get a chance to say, nope, that was hearsay. Nope, evidentiary problems. Nope. So I think that's kind of a very good statement in there, a very good part of it. And then it goes on and it talks about on Wednesday, they had until 9 o'clock on Wednesday to file motions. And the Democrats complained about that because they said, that's just not enough time for us to get all of our stuff around. So we want more. That was one of the amendments they proposed. And they said, nope, table that amendment. We're not going to do that. So that was just so fun watching them all get tabled. But they did it for a purpose. I mean, they were really trying to get their message out early because they knew that people would be watching then and they wouldn't be watching later on. So they were trying to make their case to the American people on the rule day that they did on Tuesday. And then, everything goes into effect. Today was Wednesday and it was 1 o'clock p.m. when it started. Tomorrow, Thursday, when you're going to watch this video, it'll be 1 o'clock too when it starts. And so they can do a lot of things. What's very interesting, though, is that essentially upon the conclusion, because here's where it says they've got up to 3 session days, 24 hours is the maximum they can talk. Oh, I think Schiff tried to do it all today. He just kept talking and talking and talking. It was like, please make him stop. Oh, even at double speed, it was just hard to do. And so each side may determine the number of persons to make its presentation. I thought it was very interesting that the majority of the presentation, though, was done by Schiff. There were a couple women in there. I don't know what happened to the Fox feed near the end because there were several times where it just had a totally different picture up and all I heard was the sound. So I don't necessarily know who was talking a lot there at the end, but that's all right. They're not saying anything new than what we've already read in our, the other things that I've shown you, all the briefs and everything. Nothing new. But I thought this was interesting. Upon the conclusion of the president's presentation, senators may question the parties for a period of time not to exceed 16 hours. So that's when the questioning will be. But remember, they don't get to ask them in person. They have to write them down, and then it's sent to Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, and he is the one who will read them. So I think that's a good, if you're going to ask questions, that's the best way to do it. And then after that, they get 4 hours of argument by the parties, equally divided, which means 2 more hours of Democrats there, followed by deliberation by the Senate, if so ordered under the impeachment rules, on the question of whether it shall be in order to consider and debate under the impeachment rules any motion to subpoena witnesses or documents. The Senate, without any intervening action, motion, or amendment, shall then decide by the yeas and nays whether it shall be in order to consider and debate under the impeachment rules any motion to subpoena witnesses or documents. So what's happening is the Democrats present their side of it, then President Trump's team presents their side, and then They have up to 16 hours worth of questions, and then they get to decide whether they need more witnesses or not. And I tend to think they're going to say absolutely not, that they're not going to want to get any. Of course, the Democrats will all say, yeah, we want more witnesses. We want more documents, because they're desperate. The House did not make their case well. And so they need these extra witnesses and extra documents in order to make the case. And I'm going to show you something in just a minute here that'll kind of, emphasize that. And so, yeah, they can decide. And here's what I think is really interesting. If the Senate agrees to allow either the House of Representatives or the President to subpoena witnesses, the witnesses shall first be deposed, and the Senate shall decide after deposition which witnesses shall testify pursuant to the impeachment rules. No testimony shall be admissible unless the parties have had an opportunity to depose such witnesses. Now, in a deposition, both sides get to ask questions, okay? And there are, you get to have a lawyer for each side ask questions of the witness, and you don't have other people asking things. So it will only be a lawyer on each side, or maybe 2 or 3. I don't know if they'll switch off on that, but they will have to talk to that person, and it will be done probably, I would assume the deposition is done off camera. So you don't get a lot of the grandstanding, you don't get a lot of the pick and choose things. And so I think this is a positive thing here, because I'm trying to keep that one highlighted. If the Senate decides that those witnesses, after they've been deposed, and they go, well, no, we're not going to allow that. And again, it would be a majority vote, so it would probably come out 53-47. So that's a good thing, right? Very good. I think there's some good clauses in here. This is positive, but actually this is modeled on the one they did for Clinton, so it's not out of line. They didn't really change it a whole lot for Trump. So I just think it's very interesting that that's how they set it up. So they can call witnesses, but they got to be deposed first. And after they're deposed, then they get to decide to, vote whether they're going to allow that in or not. So and there's just no way they're going to get theirs. But anyway, so then the Democrats put this in because once they put out their brief first, and then the president's people responded. And I showed you those in the dueling impeachment documents video. And then they got a chance to respond. And so this is their response. It's 34 pages long. I'm not going to go through it right now because it's the same stuff. But here's the table of contents, because remember, you can really tell what it's about from the table of contents. President Trump must be removed for abusing his power. It's the same stuff. President Trump's abuse of power is a quintessential impeachment offense. Abuse of power. No, it's not. It's not listed as that. Oh, there's so many lies. It's just, I'll get to that in a minute, just a minute. The House has proven that President Trump corruptly pressured Ukraine to interfere in the presidential election for his personal benefit, and then he must be removed for obstructing Congress. And there they go through. He ignores his claim of transparency, ignores the facts. President Trump categorically refused to comply with the House's impeachment inquiry. That's because you did it wrong. You didn't do it according to the law. President Trump's assertion of invented immunities does not excuse his categorical obstruction. Invented immunities? Really? Seriously? And the Constitution does not authorize President Trump to second-guess the House's exercise of its, quote, sole power of impeachment. Oh, that was one of their key phrases. So frustrating when you hear him say that so many times. Anyway, President Trump received fair process. Oh, yeah, right. In what fantasy world? And so you can go through it. It's 34 pages long, but it's the same stuff over and over. You can search it again, do the Control F and do a search for the same terms that I had last time. And it's crazy. Anyway, here's my favorite guy I like to listen to. I don't know. I just like his voice. So I could listen to him all day. I wish he would have been talking instead of Adam Schiff. But anyway, I wanted to play you a couple of clips of this because he did a really good job here. He had a bunch of reporters. And, just to start out, here he is on an overview of this whole thing.
I thought yesterday was really an extraordinary performance by the House managers. They managed to alienate senators, attack their own jury. When you had Representative Noddler up there saying that it would be treacherous for senators to vote against their amendments, this was like at 12:30 at night, that it would be a vote against the United States. That, of course, brought an admonishment from the Chief Justice of the United States, and rightly so. So if the point was to go on for 13 hours to no apparent purpose, frequently using rebuttal time just to delay further and to alienate the very senators that they're trying to convince, then I'd say it was a raging success on their part. But if the point was to try to convince people, I think they're off to a terrible start. So it was clear yesterday that they were not ready for trial, that they did not want to actually proceed to try this case, and that they had no plan to actually persuade senators. So I look forward to seeing what today brings, but I hope we can actually move to arguments today, and I'll be interested to see what their strategy is. They've got a lot of work to do to try to win back over senators. I can tell you that by 2 a.m. last night, people were not happy.
Senator, but what's wrong with hearing from John?
I love that. It really, and after I did my video yesterday, then I went back and I listened to the end of it because I just needed to get the video done. While the video was rendering, it takes a little while to do that. So I watched the rest of the video, and that's where the sparks started flying when you got Jerry Nadler. And I love the way he calls him Noddler instead of Nadler. I think it's too funny. Anyway, so Jerry Nadler got up there and he just basically, he said, if you don't agree with us, then you are a traitor to the country. I mean, essentially, that's what he said. And Justice Roberts came back and he said, you're not going to be talking like that in my court. So, he said it much nicer, of course, than that. But essentially, that was it. And so I wanted to point that out to you. Now, this reporter here asked Hawley here a question about, well, what's wrong with it? Why can't we just, invite him? Why don't you want more witnesses? Well, here's the answer. And I've been saying this for a long time. This is the answer.
Hearing from John Bolton or Mick Mulvaney, if they can add more information to what you're considering in terms of your votes.
Well, first of all, I will say that there's a point in the trial at which we are going to consider that. A majority leader has built in a time to consider that. And I think one of the things that was so frustrating to senators last night was that here we are in the 12th and 13th hour of this. Again, you've got the House side frequently using rebuttal time just to lengthen out the proceedings, knowing that they're going to have this debate later on. But I will also say that when it comes to calling additional witnesses, to your question, Manu, the Senate is not an investigative body. I mean, we are not here to open up new lines of investigation, to chase down things that the House didn't do. The House had the opportunity to pursue these issues. They did not take that opportunity in most cases. And now they want the Senate effectively to do their work. It was increasingly clear to me that they just really don't want to try the case that they have. I mean, they have a case. They don't want to try it. They want to open up new lines of inquiry. They want to make a different case. I just don't think that's going to happen.
So that's what I've been saying. It's not the Senate's job to build the case. They're not an investigative body. That's what they're supposed to have done in the House. And so by the time it comes to the Senate, it's ready for trial. But that's not what's happening. And from all of those 11 amendments that they had yesterday, you know that they are just grasping at straws, that they don't have a solid case yet. They feel like there's something else they have to really make their case. And that's not what the situation is. And I can tell you, by the end, people were getting a little short in their responses. And then Hawley here did clerk for Chief Justice Roberts. And so he had a little bit of insight at the end when Chief Justice Roberts, criticized, he cautioned them. He warned them not to do that kind of thing that Jerry Nadler was doing. Well, he has a little bit of insight on that. So here it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Justice admonished Nadler, as you said, but he also admonished the other two defense teams. Do you think that they were in the wrong as well?
It's interesting. So I've worked for Chief Justice Roberts. I was a clerk to him. That statement from him is a very extraordinary thing. I've never heard him deliver an admonishment like that from the bench ever. He chooses his words very, very carefully. He cited a 1905 case, impeachment case, in which one of the sides was using language that was thought to be inappropriate. And so while he was careful, I think, to be even-handed about it, as is appropriate judicially, it's very clear what the impetus for that was. It was Nadler getting up and calling the president's counsel a bunch of liars, repeatedly calling them liars, which is a terrible breach of courtroom decorum and etiquette, but then also calling senators part of a cover-up, saying that a vote against him was treachery, and saying a vote against him was a vote against the United States. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing to say on the floor of the United States Senate in the middle of a trial, and that's what drew the rebuke, and rightly so. I can tell you there was open gasping on the Senate floor when Nadler was saying these things. I mean, it's really, really extraordinary. If the goal was to persuade, they took a huge step backward last night.
Senator Hawley, at this point,
Yeah, open gasping. That's the thing. I mean, when Nadler made that comment, you remember the senators at the very beginning, Chief Justice Roberts tells them that they're not allowed to say anything. They have to maintain silence under like penalty of being imprisoned. So yeah, it's a very serious thing, and they have to be quiet about it. Well, it was one of those things that when that happened, they gasped. I mean, nobody said anything, but it was that serious. It's just not the way to win over a jury, because you're presenting in front of the jury. Insulting them is probably not the best way of doing it. But that's how Jerry Nadler works. And that's probably why they put Schiff in there instead to run the whole thing, because Schiff, at least, okay, I don't like the man. I think he's creepy, and there's just a lot about it. He lies like crazy. He's been leaking stuff. But at least when he talks, he behaves himself, I guess, is the best way of saying it. Jerry Nadler just gets out of control. His hatred for Trump is so obvious. They can't hide it. And I'm pretty sure that's why he has been relegated to a, back seat in all of this. I mean, he's still there. He's still part of it. But yeah. Okay. So on this next question, they're going to ask him about the witness exchange thing. Like if they get to, the president wants to, then they get to. Well, he has a good response on it, but especially the biggest part about his response is top of his list, Hunter Biden.
Witness exchange, the likes that's being talked about now.
Well, I thought I understood Mr. Schiff to say last night that there would be no such exchange. I thought he was addressing that. I think there was a Washington Post story that broke late last night, and I thought Schiff meant to address that on the floor at about 1 a.m. But you all might know better than I if that was what he was getting at. But I will just say for my part, if we're going to hear from witnesses, I have my own witness list. I'd absolutely want to hear from Hunter Biden. He is relevant. He is material. If you read the brief, I had the chance to reread all of the briefs on the floor of the Senate last night. And if you look closely at the House's briefs, they are at pains to say that, of course, what happened was President Trump's behavior was improper because, of course, Hunter Biden did nothing wrong. Well, really? I mean, that question is quite central to their own argument. So I'd absolutely want to hear from Hunter Biden. I'd absolutely want to hear from the whistleblower. I'd like to hear from Adam Schiff. I think Adam Schiff is probably a fact witness. We know that he communicated with the whistleblower before there was a complaint. There's a major question of fact there, where to find questions of fact. So I'd like to hear from him as well.
So are you willing to negotiate Bolton for Biden?
Say again.
Are you willing to negotiate on the witness Bolton for Biden, for example?
My view is that we have the evidence in front of us. The trial briefs are quite voluminous. The House record has been admitted into Senate evidence. I don't think we need additional witnesses. But my point is, if we're going to call witnesses, then there's a number of folks I'd like to hear from, and Hunter Biden's at the top of that list. Thank you, everybody.
Did you catch that? I wondered how in the world these senators were surviving through that, because when I watched it at double speed. So I only had to see it half as long as they did. But, I didn't know what in the world they were doing. It must have been very painful. Well, he said he was reading the briefs. And remember, those are the 200-page documents that I showed you. So that's what he was doing. He was putting his time to good use. But I think he's likely a lawyer. I haven't looked at his background, but from the way he speaks, he sounds like he's got a good grasp of the law. So I'm pretty sure he is. But anyway, so he basically said, we don't need any more because they've got the volumes of this material that they've already done. And I don't think we need it to make our conclusion. So it really is probably going to play out that way. I doubt if they'll have any of the witnesses come in. But then again, they might. It's just going to make it really long if they do, because they have to depose them first and then vote on whether to bring them in. And it's going to be a long, drawn-out process in that case. But then we have a president who is still working hard for all of us. And here's one little thing that I found that I wanted to show you. I thought this was kind of weird. Okay, this person on Twitter says, I have a question. Is this Chuck Schumer, and did he tell an invisible person to get off his chair? I zoomed in so you guys could see better. Look at the blonde lady behind him. She looks confused. Okay, you don't really see her that much in this picture, but here's the video for it. So yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but it sure did look like he told somebody to get out of his seat. So, gotta wonder who he's talking to. Or maybe he's just not playing with a full deck. I don't know. I kind of think maybe it was just someone more from a different spiritual realm, possibly. But anyway, here's the original, too. They put it in the same thread so you can see the original. But yeah, it was really weird. And you can go through and read some of these documents, because it was wondering what in the world he was doing and why he was doing that. I mean, he definitely pointed like he was telling somebody to get out of his seat. It was odd. It was very odd. So I'll leave the link to that down below. You can watch it yourself and share it if you want. And then Terrence Williams shared this one. This is about Joe Biden. And he just, it's a video here. I'm not going to play it, but it's getting late, guys. I just want to go to bed. But let me get this done. And I'll leave the link. You can go. But yeah, some reporter was saying, why this, asking questions. Why, why? And Biden goes, why? And he gets kind of mad and kind of pushes the guy. So yeah, and you got to hear Terrence Williams' comment on it too. All right, and then this one from Charlie Kirk. This is just crazy. The self-serving, lying, despicable politicians in Puerto Rico spent weeks bashing Trump while hiding aid from their citizens. They should all go to prison quickly for this unforgivable crime against citizens who desperately need help. I'll show it to you. I'm not going to play the audio on it, but I'll show it. These are all boxes of things. Now, the guy who's speaking in it is speaking Spanish. So if you don't know Spanish, it doesn't matter if you hear him or not. But essentially, he was outraged. All of these different things, all of these supplies that you're seeing here, these have been sitting in a warehouse. So it's not that Trump didn't send aid. It just never got to the people. And it's just despicable. You've got all these, pacifiers, and you've got all these different things that the kids could be using, that Pampers and Huggies and wipes and all water and everything they needed, the different stuff that they needed, it never got to the people. And I mean, there's even like stoves and radios, the crank radios, and there were batteries and just all of these different things that were sent there to help these people in Puerto Rico out. And what happened to them? The corrupt officials kept them stockpiled like this, and the people never saw them. And it really is. See, this guy was very irate about it. And again, I'll leave it the link down below, and you can go here and you can watch it. If you do understand Spanish, you'll understand that he was pretty ticked off. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is this just came out on the 22nd. And it's about the UN human rights ruling says climate refugees cannot be returned back to their home country. U.S. must open its borders to all Central Americans. Yeah. This is scary that they have the power to do this. Well, we'll see how it's implemented, because I cannot see the Trump administration sitting still for this. I think it will definitely be repudiated and said, hey, we're not following that. You can tell us, but we're not going to do it. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. The links will all be down below and you can check them out for yourself. So that's it for tonight, guys. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed so I can wake up tomorrow and watch day 2 of the Democrats making their case that they really don't have. And I wanted to tell you that as far as I'm concerned, it is more fiction than I have in my books. And my novels have less fiction than what they're putting out as truth. And that's what really irritates me, that they keep saying a bunch of lies. And I really am looking forward to when the defense gets to talk and we get to hear the real truth. Oh, I hope people have not tuned it all out by then. That's my biggest concern. I really do hope that it's going to reveal a lot of things. I also wanted to point out a few things that hit me as I was watching it. The first one is, I think they're setting up a question of the validity of the result of the 2020 election. In other words, I think that they're trying to put the question in people's minds that when Trump wins, and we're pretty sure he's going to, right? Then are people going to question and say, did he do it legitimately or was there interference? And that might give, the Democrats a chance to run with that narrative, essentially, because, they're using their mainstream media to help them out there. And if the mainstream media would join in with that, it's very hard to fight against it. So that's one concern that I have, that they're trying to question the validity of the 2020 election. So when it comes down to where Trump wins, they will question the legitimacy of his presidency again. And another one was, they really have been trying to discredit the CrowdStrike allegations by saying it's a debunked conspiracy theory, that then they put out that the Ukrainians used CrowdStrike to hack the DNC. I don't know. It's bizarre. When I hear it, it's like, what? That's not at all what it is. Because, they're trying to say Trump is promoting this conspiracy theory that's been debunked. And that's not at all what it is. The whole thing with the CrowdStrike is that CrowdStrike took the DNC server instead of the FBI, and they supposedly did the forensics on it instead of the FBI, who should have been doing the forensics on that server. And CrowdStrike is the one that said, oh yeah, Russia hacked it. Well, we know that's not true. Russia didn't hack it, and that's what they're trying to cover up. And of course, that opens the door then for maybe Julian Assange to clarify things as to where the WikiLeaks came from, the DNC emails. So that's a possibility too. But I don't think this is all going to come out here in this trial. I was hoping that more of it would start to come out because I'm just impatient. Let's face it, folks. I want to see these people held accountable for their crimes. But let's make sure that everything is done right. I don't want them coming back. And then, they said the Ukrainians hacked the DNC server. That's the claim that they say that Trump is promoting. And that's not at all it. That isn't at all. That has nothing to do with why he said CrowdStrike. So, and then I had to laugh when they said the words that will live in infamy, do us a favor. I think it was Adam Schiff that said that. I don't remember who it was that said it, but it was like, really? The words that will live in infamy, do us a favor. Okay, those were the notes that as I went through it, I wrote down. There weren't very many because after a while, it just was like background noise almost. No, I listened to it, but I was also doing other things. I had to start a new Afghan crocheting to keep me busy and to give me a little bit of break there on that. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.